to today's Fringe event. Before we get started, the Hollywood Fringe acknowledges that we are on the unceded lands of the Tongva, Gabrielino Tongva, and Chumash peoples. Our statement serves as a practice as we commit to furthering our connection to Indigenous communities past, present, and emerging. If you'd like to learn more, I'm holding just for a siren. If you'd like to learn more about why we do a land acknowledgement and more about the land that we are currently working on, you can go to hollywoodfringe.org/land, and we have some information there. I also want to acknowledge in this room that we are live streaming, and to our friends on the live stream, you might have noticed we upgraded from our applesauce packets of last event. And so you should be able to hear us a lot more clearly with these new microphones. But we have a backup recording just in case anything goes a little wonky again today as we all learn how to navigate new technology. So how today's going to work, because you guys are like, I thought this was a panel. What is happening? For about 5 to 10 minutes, I'm going to slam through some announcements. And then I'm going to slam through some definitions and some like grounding and some advice from the Fringe about fundraising and budgeting, as well as what resources we have so that when you go home, you have those as well, including sample budgets. And then starting pretty quickly after that, I'm hoping about 20 to 25 minutes, we'll bring on the panelists, and they're going to give you advice. We're going to give you information, they're going to give you advice and some real talk about what worked for them. I also wanted to note that today's panel is not ASL interpreted. If you are watching from home, we have some information about how to make sure that you have my brain. There's captioning available. And if you do want to request an interpreter, we just need to know 72 hours in advance of any panel or event, and we'll have interpreters at all of our major parties like opening night and those sorts of events. So you don't have to do it for those, but for the workshops, we just need a request. We have tons of workshops coming up, and you guys should all have them in your calendar by now, but if you don't, go to hollywoodfringe.org/events, and that's where everything is. hollywoodfringe.org/events is like your new best Fringe pal. You can also add all of the events to your calendar there as well. And you're like, I thought that this was not the first workshop. I thought this was the first workshop. This is not the first workshop. We've already had a town hall and a workshop. And so if you miss those, make sure you go onto our YouTube at youtube.com/HollywoodFringe, and we have a playlist of all of our events there. Also, every single one of these becomes a podcast episode. So if you'd rather listen to it while driving or want a refresher, it'll be available on all podcasting platforms as well. Remember, we have some dates and deadlines coming up. Registration already opened. Woo, we're here. But April 15th is that registration deadline. So you just need to make sure that you have your venue booked as well as your registration fee paid by April 15th. If you know that you're not going to register until later in the festival, make sure you're looking at your regular email right now, because we sent a link about signing up for the artist newsletters, because our participant newsletters start next week. So if you haven't registered yet, we don't know that you're going to be a part of the festival, and you need to sign up via that link to get those emails and make sure you're in the loop. So if you have not registered yet and you're not planning to for another week or two, make sure you go in your emails. There's a link to sign up for our participant emails so that you don't get left out of the flow, because that's important. May 1st, tickets go on sale. I know, you're like, we should sell them now. No, we shouldn't. Nobody's going to buy them now. Are you kidding me? They won't even buy them till a week before your performance. So let's think, so May 1st is this like giant on sale that we all push together as a community. We have like a campaign that we started a few years ago where you can post some of our branding that day. We push it out to as many people as possible. It is such a fun day. Then we have our festival coming up June 5th through the 10th is our preview performances. Many times people are like, what are previews? It's the same thing as a regular show. You just are judged maybe a little bit less harsh because it's just previews. So you want to have your full production ready for that preview week to make sure that you're able to get the best reviews possible, because that is your best time to garner word of mouth. We have the opening night party on June 11th, Lois, am I right? 10th. So it's the 4th through the 9th. I have the wrong dates in here. This is last year's copy. June 4th through the 9th are previews. The 10th is opening night party. And then we will be running officially the 11th through the 28th. And then the closing night party is on that Monday following. brain. Sorry, this is last year's script. Those dates are all available again online as well in our Artist Supportal Hub, which is support.hollywoodfringe.org, and then you can find the Artist Hub there. We don't have very many rules of the Fringe, but we take our code of conduct very seriously. If you register a project, you and your team will be held accountable for your actions as you participate within that festival. That means that you should be very familiar with it and make sure that anybody on your team who's coming to Fringe events is also aware of our code of conduct. This is a professional environment and one that we take professional behavior very seriously in. So if you haven't read it already, please go to hollywoodfringe.org/conduct and remember to share that with your team on the first day of rehearsals as they come in. How to engage now with HFF marketing. Make sure that you're signed up for our emails. Like I said, if you're not registered already, also make sure that you sign up for the participant emails, which is in the general email this week because our general emails are about to stop. We pause for a bit so that people get excited when they see Fringe in their inbox when tickets are on sale. You can follow us on social media and like us on Facebook. You can use the hashtag HFF26 when you're posting about your own work. That way we are all in one marketing hashtag scheme. I don't know what they're, I don't understand social media, but I do understand. I don't lead that panel. But what I do understand about social media is that it's such a beautiful thing. Every time I go through that hashtag, I get to see all of the artists that are participating and all of their marketing. So when you are posting about your show, make sure you use that hashtag. And then remember, you can always email us if you have questions at support@hollywoodfringe.org. And Roddy and Lois are so fast at getting back to people. It's pretty incredible. How many people are new? Raise your hand. Is this your first Fringe? Whoa, look at that. Look, you're not alone. Every year we have just this like beautiful community of returning participants and people who are new to the Fringe, and you need to rely on each other. New participants look to people who have done Fringe before for advice. They are people who have that experience and can tell you best practices. And for our veterans, hold that with some honor and also take in some amazing new artistic ideas from our new participants. Every year our community just gets larger and larger, and so welcome, and we're so excited to see you here. Okay, enough about this. I'm gonna go into the budgeting part. So everybody's gonna take out their phone right now or their computer, and you're gonna go to hollywoodfringe/budget. No S, /budget.
No Wi-Fi in here?
No, I'm using my hotspot. This is our Budgeting for Fringe article in the Fringe Supportal, which is our Artist Hub. If you haven't seen this yet, start looking through the Artist Hub here because we have so many amazing articles on every single topic about how to do Fringe. And this is just one of them. In this one, you can view some sample budgets. You also just have some information about the Fringe side of things, about what you have to think about when budgeting.
Can you say that site again?
Yep, hollywoodfringe.org/budget, no S. And thumbs up when you're there. I'm gonna give it one more minute. When you get there, let's click on the sample budgets link, which is in the first paragraph. There's a second line that's like right after that, and it says you can view the sample budgets here. And we're gonna open that. Inside of that link, you'll see that there are 3 different folders which have sample budgets from last year's shows that include solo shows, musicals, ensemble shows broken out. Each of them has several budgets of several different sizes that you can use as a jumping off point to see what people who had good ticket sales or had good experiences and got what they wanted out of Fringe were able to kind of budget as. And we also have a prospective show budget. Remember that that's a public document, so if you're gonna start to type your budget in there, you're gonna wanna make a copy of it. But you can make a copy of that and have that as a jumping off for your budget. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna go into that template really quick, and I'm just gonna talk through a couple of definitions that people get stuck on. So there's 2 things that you have in a budget. You have your income and you have your expenses. And your expenses are more detailed but your income is more random. Think about it that way. So for your income, I actually have two separate tabs that we'll go into to discuss. So we're going to go through expenses first, which is actually below that. So your budgeted expenses will include your venue costs, and in there we have lots of different information. You're going to want to think about the base rental. You're going to want to think about the venue personnel. You're going to want to think about insurance costs, rehearsal space costs, and remember that every venue might work a little bit differently. So some venues you might get all three of those in one little package deal, and that's fine, but some of them you'll have them broken down, and these are the things you want to think about. The base rental, the venue personnel, tech, box office, those sorts of things. Insurance, and then rehearsal spaces and tech time and things like that. You're also going to want to think about costumes. Even if you end up doing things at Goodwill, that costs money. Even if you end up buying these sorts of things, you want to put them inside of there. You're going to have your personnel. It's totally okay if you have a fully volunteer cast. Some people don't, some people do. And you'll want to make sure that if you do have paid people, that they're put in your budget. Marketing and publicity. These are just some of the ways that people spend their money on marketing, but they're the most common. And note that we have office hours money in there, because if you're planning to go and be a part of the community, you're going to want your social time to be a part of that budget. Sometimes if you have volunteer casts, that's the best way to get them to go to the thing is, I'll buy you a drink at office hours, or I'll buy you a dinner at office hours. And it's a great way to make people feel excited to come support your production on the ground. And then you're going to want documentation. Documentation, documentation, documentation. The idea is that your Fringe show is a launching pad for you to do future productions. If you do not document this process, then you're going to have even less photographs than you had before, you know what I mean? So documentation for different people can look different ways. Sometimes you have a good friend who's a photographer who might come in for a little $50 or whatever and do a little photo shoot at one of your rehearsals. Or maybe you book a formal photographer for one of your performances. I highly recommend at least you're setting up a good iPhone with maybe some good quality microphones and you're recording at least one performance. Many grant applications require documentation of your show. They require video recording, and it is really important that you start to get that information. Yes?
Are we allowed to record video? Because I thought that the general rule of thumb was that bootlegging is best. So I'm just wondering.
Oh, of your own production.
Okay.
So you're taking pictures and video of your own production so that when you apply for a grant with your production, you can provide that link. And so some things you want to think about is like live streaming with a licensed music. Unless you license that music, do not live stream with it. You will get it taken down. But for instance, if you have that documentation and it's for a grant, you can put it up as a private link. For instance, when we've had snippets that we've applied for grants with that might have some licensed music or licensed content within it, as long as it's really there on like a password-only link, you can send it that way to a grant committee to be able to look at. So you're going to want to document this for yourself for future marketing of your show, but also in case you want to have like documentation of your artistic product. I think documentation is one of the things that people forget about in their budgeting process, and it is probably one of the most important things that you're going to do is be able to have that toolkit to be able to continue your tour, as you need to have good marketing images and you need to have good content for you to be able to even post on social media. These are very, very important if you want to continue touring. Does anybody have any other questions about expenses before we move on to how to calculate your income? Cool. So we're going to go to the next tab, which says sell-through estimates, and we're going to talk about what a sell-through rate is. So you're going to want to budget between 30 and 60% of your house being sold. Budgeting above 60 is kind of insane because even the top amazing sellers of the Fringe are going to be comping in so much of their house from the industry program, from press, but also how do you get industry and press there? Word of mouth about your show. People seeing it during previews week and saying, ah, that was just so excellent, and I haven't heard people talking about it, and I'm going to talk about it in this bar. Like, it really does matter, and it really does, in a festival setting, help you pick up. So what I think is really important is that you even start at 30%. This year starts at 40% sold. So for instance, I based it off of a 50-seat house. So if you look at the top left here, we're pretending that we're in a 50-seat house, and you'll see that there's different price points that you're calculating at, and then you're calculating that only 40% of those tickets are sold, In the next one, 50% of those tickets are sold. And the next one, 60% of those tickets are sold. You're generally gonna imagine that, this is like just basic budgeting. You might want to put more in your discounted codes than your actual general admission sale price, because I will say that people use discount codes like crazy, and it's such a great way for you to be able to track your marketing, which is why it's so important that you sell your general tickets a little bit higher than you want people to pay. So for instance, I would suggest doing advertisements, and say you provide that advertisement to a special group, like, oh, I'm a part of my church, and my church group will totally send it out, and I'm going to provide a discount code with the thing will be like, church love will be my discount code, and it'll be $5 off tickets. I'll be able to track if that ad worked because I added a discount code into that ad, and I can see that those people actually showed up, that kind of thing. So you're going to want to generally budget around your general admission price, which is what's listed in the guide, listed on the website if nobody's involved in Fringe. Your dollar off participant community price, which is anybody who buys a button, which includes our artists or community, will have that price show up. If somebody is listed on a project page, they become that community price, that artist price, and that's going to be whatever you set it at. Some people set it at $0, some people set it at $5, some people set it at a certain rate and then provide comps to people that they're closest to. You can do comping to your fellow artists however you want to. You can comp 0 if you want. Then after that, you'll want to add in whatever discount codes you're planning to use and what price points they're going to be. And you don't have to break it down. If you have a couple of different price codes that are at $5 off, then don't put a bunch of things here. Just start to calculate them as like, okay, I'm going to estimate that I'll sell this many at $5 off and this many at $3 off. So that is how the sell-through rate point works. You can see that there's there's a little generation of your total ticket sales. At the bottom, it'll automatically happen. I highly recommend use Google Sheets to do what are those called? Functions. That's what they're called. Functions, that you start to learn how to use functions, because this is the way that you are going to present your information for your future company. And I'm calling it a company because you are running a company, whether or not you plan to do another production under this company or not. This is your theater company, and you have to kind of start to be in that mindset. Any questions on that tab before I go to the next one? Okay. Lastly, you have your fundraising goals. So you have crowdfunding income, donation income, and program ad sales. So you're like, program ad sales for the Fringe? Oh, and grants income. Program ad sales for the Fringe program? No, for yours. Did you know that you could print a program and maybe be like, oh, I have friends that would they would want to give me a donation under their company, and maybe they would use a little marketing budget. You could sell ads in your little program. You could have an ad on the back page for something. That's what I've seen people do, and they've made money that way. I'm putting in all the options here, not saying that every single Fringe show does that. I'm putting in all the options that we've heard of. So what you're going to choose is you're going to choose your ways that you're going to fundraise. Are you going to crowdfund? Are you going to grant write? Are you going to ask just for straight up donations from people that have money? Are you going to sell ads? All of this takes work. And remember, all of that work is your money then kind of going away. Everything that you do takes away your time, and that takes away your money. So you have to think about what you're best at and what you have time to do. So before we move on and I start talking about these categories, does anybody have questions? No? Great. Oh, yes.
Well,
David.
Zephyr, for example, on my show is in here. I'm going to do 4 shows. There's 74 seats in here. Selling out is very hard on a theater this small.
Correct.
So say I shoot for 40 seats. I was just doing the calculation. 4 nights. Okay. Say I concentrate on 40 seats at my general.
Yeah.
Say it's $15 times 40. So that's $600 potentially per night.
Correct. But you're not going to budget there, because if you think that that's your goal is to sell 40 seats, you're going to want to budget below that and to that goal, because what you're going to want to remember is that sometimes we don't make our goals. And so if you budget around your most excellent point, you're going to want to make sure that you don't do that, because it will hurt you in the long run. You want to be really realistic in your budgeting, you want to make more money that's in your than what is in your budget.
Right.
Like, it's not, the goal is not to make what's in your budget. The goal is to blow that budget out of the water and to have extra money at the end of this. And if you're really realistic about your budgeting now, you won't be scared later when you don't make your goals. So what I would do is, if you're setting your price at $15 and you're trying to sell 40 seats, I would then put certain at 15, certain at 10, certain at 5, certain at 0. You know what I mean? And start to go from there. Inside of the same formula, but just tweak the amount of seats on sale. Yeah.
In terms of getting audience, selling a ticket for $15 versus $18, have you noticed any big difference?
I don't believe so. I think that what you'll see the difference is when people are seeing a lot of different Fringe shows, and we have a couple of different marketing schemes for you to be able to reach them with a discount code. So somebody who's seeing maybe, like, we have people that see like 40 Fringe shows, and they might be like, oh, this one's 15 and this one's 18. Maybe I'll go with the 15. But that's way less common than what people are doing, which is looking for the content that they are interested in. That being said, this year we are encouraging people to raise their prices just a little bit. So for solo shows, we are saying between 12 to 18. So that'll be at the higher end of what people are selling their solo shows at, and the lower end of where people are selling like ensemble and musicals and things of that nature.
What's the ensemble?
Oh, I will go through that in a little bit, but let me find it in my notes.
Also, Ellen, can you repeat the question when they ask it for the live stream?
Correct. Thank you. Sorry. And that was just asking about where to budget your dollars at. Let me find my notes. Okay, I found it. Typically this year, we are encouraging our participants to raise their prices on general admission ticket side and continue to use discount codes for people seeing 5+ shows. Because our survey of audiences, they were like, we'd pay more. And we're like, great, then we'll charge more. So for solo shows, we're recommending setting your price between $12 and $18. For ensemble, between $12 to $25, depending on the size and scale of your production. And for large ensemble casts, live band musicals, and small audience immersive productions, they often fall between $25 and $35, and we think that's a good range. You should look at what shows are similar to you and stay within that range for that larger scale. Going above $35 is just really hard to sell through our audiences. That being said, if you have an audience that's gonna do that, and then discount it for the Fringe audiences.
Are we able to give away tickets?
Absolutely. And that's why we want to make sure that we're budgeting that even at our best, we're selling 60% of our house, because you will be comping people. You're going to comp your fellow artists. You're going to comp in industry. You're going to comp in mom. You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to charge your mom, are you? And if you do it, because I would too. But you know what I mean? Like, there's going to be people you're going to want to comp. And so you're going to always want to make sure that you are never budgeting that you're going to sell above 60% of your house. And then when you accidentally sell 80, or on purpose because you work really hard, you're going to be really stoked.
As individual productions, when we set up fundraisers for ourselves, do you guys like promote it on Instagram? Like, does Fringe does that, or like?
No, we have over 400. We're going to have over 400 productions, and it'd be really unfair for us to promote person's fundraiser. And we've thought about like equitable ways to do that. We've been like, is there a way for us to do like a fundraising page? And it just hasn't worked out for us to do that. But you should really be marketing to your audiences and your donors. You know, I would say that the general Fringe audience is not very wealthy. We have a much different Fringe, like the Fringe audience is not the CTG audience. It is not the Pantages audience. It is very different. It's mostly low-income Angelinos that come because they're able to see theater at an affordable price. So even we have a hard time fundraising to our community for that reasoning, because we don't have the same audience.
Do you have a suggestion on like, is it a Kickstarter?
I'm about to go through fundraising, yeah.
And another quick question, a portion of all of my ticket sales go to humanitarian aid organizations I'm working with. Should I, I'm giving aid, like,
The question is about humanity. Sorry, I forgot to do that for the last one. The question is about discounting for humanitarian aid within your budget, yes. So if you are doing a portion towards another organization, you're going to want to, include it in your budget, but single out that you're not going to keep that money. And then maybe what I would do is put the full ticket price there and then put what you would generate in expenses. So put that, create a new expense category for what you'll pay out after the event.
So should I just not discount tickets then at all then? Because we'll cut it to the fundraising or
I think that's a really hard question for me to answer because it's so specific to your production and who your people are. And I would be happy to talk to you offline about it. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to go through some more before we take any more questions, just because I think I'm about to answer everybody's questions. Okay, so the common ways that you article. I'm gonna bring up an article that is in. I realize it's kind of hard to find. We have an article that is how to pay for your Fringe show that is about to be emailed out. And I can make sure that everybody who reserved a ticket gets that emailed out to them as well. But in that article, we define pretty much everything I'm about to go through. So if you're like, this is a lot of information at once, don't worry. Every ticket buyer for today, and just come up to me afterwards if you didn't reserve your ticket in advance, will get an email with this link at the end of it. But there's a couple of different things that you can do. Individual grants. That's really hard. Individual grants are extremely competitive, and I'm just going to be honest, not available in the United States. In the United States, they're very rare. There's one through the city. There's one through the state, and they are for 12 artists and for very small amounts. Create this whole show and I'll give you $5,000, and it's like, well, I could crowdfund that, So I would say that is going to be you're going to have a rare time funding your Fringe show through grants. That being said, we think it's really important that you know some of these definitions. In addition to our scholarship program, which is one of our granting programs, we do have an artist fund. It is a lottery. There's no application other than you fill out the application, but there's no I need to answer questions. You are going to opt into that if you're interested, and so this doesn't really apply for that. But for something like the scholarship program, it is a grant application. There's a lot of information that goes into it. And if you're planning to apply next year, this would be helpful for that. But also, there's other grant applications that might be for residencies, or they might be for less of I'm giving you money, but more for getting into programs that bring your show to the next level. So these are just important things to know. Some keywords that you'll search for is in this article. So you'll search for things like individual artist grant, theater artist grant, Los Angeles grant, Los Angeles artist grant, Fringe grant, and you'll use all of these. I, again, will email you a link with all of this. You don't have to take too much. There's also some links in there to where you can find funds. There's a whole section in here about grant writing tips. We're not going to go over those today because you're not, I would really, unless you have an opportunity that you are ready to apply for right now, you are going to have the best chance by individually fundraising for your show. It's just going to be the best use of your time at this point and juncture. But inside of there's a lot of information about grants, and we would really love for you to apply for them because they're great when the time is right. Crowdfunding is a great option, especially if you've never done it before. You have so many people that you would be so surprised are interested in supporting your work, and especially if you are doing this show and you're like, I'm a little nervous, I've never done this before, it's actually a good time too, then, if you've never done it, because you're not tapping your people dry. We'll talk with our panelists who have experience fundraising more about this and about their best practices, but here are some things that you're gonna need to do. Pick a platform. There's lots of different ones, and there's different reasons to do all of that. So in there, we have some links to why you would use different ones. You're gonna refine your pitch. So you picked your platform. You have to then, before you hit go on that platform, have a full plan behind you. You doing a crowdfund campaign is so much work that you're going to want to make sure you do so much of it in the beginning of it before you even press go on having that go live, because you're going to want to kind of gamify how that goes live. So what I mean is you're going to refine your pitch. You're going to have to ask what you're asking for money for. You're going to need to be able to write a couple of paragraphs about what people can expect from that donation. What kind of show are they going to expect? What does the scale look like? What are your plans look like? What are you going to do for marketing? You want them to be able to read your page and go, this person is ready to go for Fringe already in February, which means that in June, my money will be going to good use. You're going to set a budget and a fundraising goal. So you're going to finish that Fringe budget that we were talking about, and you're going to set a realistic fundraising goal. You can always increase it. You could always keep going. But the idea of overextending your capacity is going to drive you nuts, and it's going to make this process suck. So let's make sure that you're setting something realistic. In this, I have an example of how you could reach like a $500 fundraising goal. A $500 fundraising goal is just 10 people at $10 each, 10 people at $25 each, and 3 people at $50 each. Boom. So what you're gonna do, what I do, and this is like something that we've talked about for years, and it does work. You're gonna write a list of the people you're gonna ask to contribute. How much you really realistically think they could give you. And after that, you're gonna cut that expectation in half or more. So you're gonna be like, these are all the people that I think will give me money. This is how much money I think they will give me. And then my budget, or what I'm gonna advertise, is half of that or less, you know? So for instance, if you think that you come up with that number of like, okay, I think from all these people I can raise $1,000, your goal is gonna be $500. That way you are not overextending yourselves. And guess what? Maybe on your next GoFundMe, that person that didn't donate the first time might be more behooved to, because they're like, okay, well, I didn't do it last time, I might as well now. You know what I mean? So you're gonna create that goal, and then from there, you're gonna create a marketing plan on how am I gonna reach those people? Are they your friends on Facebook? Are you gonna message them through Facebook Messenger? Are they your friends in email? Are they like, do you have some family members and friends that you could keep on like a weekly email list, or like leading up to the festival, where you could also like use it as a marketing kind of list to say, hey, here's some updates on my project kind of thing. Don't be annoying, or else they'll never subscribe to you again. But you could start to make these like engaging like announcements. Like I do that with my list even now. Like even today, Lois and I have been doing this for 10 years. I have like a little sub list of people that whenever I'm doing a fundraising campaign, whenever Fringe is about to start, I email them so that they come and engage. And so you're gonna start to build that list now, because it's not only useful for this Fringe run, it's useful for the rest of your life. And guess what? After Fringe, you could add your ticket sales your ticket buyers to that, because you get your little list of people who opted in to be emailed. So you're going to create your marketing campaign. You're going to decide how you're going to reach these people, and that's it. Then you're going to create the web page, and you're going to decide what your timeline is. Keeping your timeline short, it makes you the least amount of nuts. If you decide that you're going to fundraise until April 30th, good God, you should maybe pick 2 weeks to really like strongly go into a campaign that you can actually be on top of, which means when incentives are bought, you can immediately send that incentive because you have built in the time to focus on your campaign. You also want to like be in public a lot during that campaign, because it's going to like really drive you nuts and you're going to feel bad about yourself. And you need to be reminded that like you're not a bad person for asking for money for your project by your friends. So you also want to spend time in community in those days, refilling your cup, so that when you're fundraising, you don't drive yourself nuts. Because fundraising is really hard, and every artist has to do it. So you're going to want to make sure you have a clear, concise, exciting overview of your project. You're going to want to be clear about where and why you're going to be using this money. You're going to want to figure out what your transparency is going to be for what you like utilize those donations for. You're going to want to use videos and photos on that page. So maybe you're going to create like a video of you talking about the work, and maybe some imagery of some inspiration photos that are licensed to use within that video. Maybe you're going to want to create a like more like stylized snippet of what they might be able to expect, so that there's something like maybe a less talking head and a little bit more engaging on that page. You are going to figure out what your best tool is, whether it's showing off your art or talking about your art, and you're going to do that on that page, and then you're going to publish it. Offer incentives. I'm going to be honest, nobody does donations for incentives. They don't. You do not need to offer tickets. And in fact, you can sell less tickets that way. I would say that if you're offering tickets as a part of your thing, you're going to want to remember to reserve them in the house. And then you're going to have to hound them to come to your show, because they might not have wanted to come to your show and just wanted to support you. I would just say that whatever incentives you offer, Make them as low lift as possible. One time I did a campaign like forever years ago where I said I was going to bake a loaf of bread for everybody who gave me more than $50. And I baked 2. And then I messaged everybody. I was like, I'm not baking this bread. And they're like, I didn't donate for the bread. So, like, you know what I mean? Like, you're going to overthink it and just don't. People do not do it for the incentives unless you have like some like wild marketing scheme with like wild merch that people are already foaming at the mouth for. Like, it works for some people and maybe that's your brand, but for somebody like me, it didn't work. And then you're going to keep asking until you reach the goal. So you set it for 2 weeks and you need a 3rd week. That's fine. People do that. Unless you're on a timed campaign, then you can't do that. But if your crowdfunding campaign allows you for that, that's okay. You can keep going. And you're going to keep going. Because remember, it takes 7 watches for somebody to even consider clicking into the page. You have to message people so many times subliminally, I can't say that word, or like actually, before they actually want to be a part of this. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking now, and we're gonna hold questions until after this like gorgeous discussion with people who have even more information than me. So our panelists, if you can come up. Whee! And we will hold time for questions at the end. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're talking into this when we're talking for the live stream. Okay. So anytime that you're talking, if you could grab our little mics here, and we'll keep it in the middle here, you can pass it along to each other either way. So before we get started, hi, I love you guys. Could you say your name, your pronouns, a visual description, and any access accommodations we might need to be aware of, and then how long you've done Fringe and what your role has been. And I'm going to start because I forgot to do this at the top. Hi, I'm Ellen. I am the co-director of Fringe, and my pronouns are she, they. And for a visual description, I'm a white woman. I'm wearing a striped button-down shirt with a red like statue picture on it, black pants and green shoes. I have brown curly hair and bangs. And I've been doing Fringe for a long time.
Hi, I'm Adriana. I pronouns she, her. For visual description, I am wearing red yoga leggings and top with a gray, blue, and purple sweater. And I have curly brown hair, and I'm a Latina woman. And what was the last question?
How long you've done Fringe?
Oh, I've only done Fringe one time. I did a show last year, and I wrote, produced, and directed.
Hi, I'm Regina. Let's see, my pronouns are she, her. I'm a white woman, trans woman, but I'm wearing like a fuzzy white top and blue jeans and fuzzy boot things. And I have purple and blue hair. And I've been doing Fringe for, well, 1 year. This will be my 2nd year being involved in Fringe. Last year I did a show right here at the Zephyr. And yeah, I think I answered all the questions, right?
Hello, my name is James Ferrero, pronouns he, him. I'm a white male wearing black pants, a black leather jacket, black baseball hat. I have brown hair and a very bushy beard at the moment. And I've been doing Fringe for 15 years now. And my roles have included producer, writer, director, actor, venue technician, stage manager, sound designer, and production designer. So yeah, thank you.
Could I get you all to just give me like a little bit of snippets of the types of shows and work that you do, whether it's solo work, ensemble work, and for Fringe specifically?
You got it.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll take it. Yeah, I typically I work within the realm recently of a lot of adapting Shakespeare and horror theater as well, sometimes pushing them together into the same. They're usually smaller casts. It's been a lot of 2-person casts recently because it's much more affordable to put that on. But yeah, we like to work within the realm of theater, but sort of bringing techniques from film into it as well. Theatrical surprises, things like that, things that'll make an audience, if it's a horror show, make them jump or scream sometimes. But yeah, it's mostly what I've worked on.
Let's see. My play was a solo play, and I did the writing and was the actress and did live music, and I created the voiceovers and the video clips and the marketing and the crowdfunding. So it was a one-person show, basically. I had a director help me, and I did hire a couple people to help me with some other parts of the process, but I have experience in a lot of those other areas, so the only thing I had never done before was write a play or be in a play. So, did that answer your question? Yeah.
I did a very large and ambitious play last year. It was my first time doing Fringe, and I didn't have experience knowing what would work at Fringe, so I just did what I had written before, which was a 10-person play. A 90-minute 10-person play where at least in one scene all 10 people are in the same scene. So perhaps I was a little too ambitious.
So we're gonna get real deep and personal real fast. But do you typically fundraise the money for Fringe, or is it more like out of pocket, reimbursed through ticket sales? Do you have any tips for financially planning right now for Fringe? Yeah, James, go first.
All right. Yes, I found that in the past crowdfunding can be really helpful. I will say with that, if you are planning to crowdfund, anticipate that this is going to help supplement what you're doing. And I think it's a little, you may want to double think if you think this is going to fund your entire project. I would be a little wary about that. But as supplemental income to help you build your budget, I think can be very important. I typically, because I've been producing since 2017, and so there's a lot of shows before my production company formed and all of that, money would be put aside. And so once I formed that, I started folding that into a different account, and that's what I've mostly drawn from, along with crowdfunding. And you do have to put in your own money as well. That's what happens. But it helps to keep it separate, so you're not feeling like you're just drawing from your personal wealth, especially for most of us, aren't independently wealthy, so we can't just throw down a check for whenever we want it. So yeah, it's been sort of building up those shows over the years, both in Fringe and outside of Fringe, and just trying to keep that separate with the hope of like, hey, we can use this in a future show and put that in. But yes.
Can you refresh my memory?
Yeah, so do you typically fundraise most of your money for Fringe? Is it out of pocket? And do you reimburse yourself through ticket sales? And do you have any tips for financially planning for that?
All of those. I have experience with crowdfunding. I've done it before. Been a musician my whole life. I've basically crowdfunded or grant funded or investor funded every album and every concert and every tour. And I used Kickstarter for my play last year. I had a $5,000 goal, and I made that goal. And I did put in a little bit of extra money of my own, but most of my budget came from that campaign. I actually teach a crowdfunding and fundraising seminar, webinar. I did it with LA Women's Theater Festival, and I did it with my director through her Soaring Solo group. And if you want the resource materials, I have this incredibly long report about all the different options and all the different ways to crowdfund and grant fund. And I also have a one-page cheat sheet. So afterwards, if you want to connect with me, I can just email that to you. Because the one thing I want you to think about when you're so uncomfortable about asking people for money, you're not asking people for money. You're giving people an opportunity to participate in the arts and support you, and people want to do that. So, and I followed everything that she said. I made a spreadsheet. I actually go overboard with this kind of stuff. I went on Kickstarter and I researched every play that had been done and what incentives or rewards that they used, and which ones had the most people that picked those rewards. So I have this big, giant, large spreadsheet of like 50 different solo theater shows that crowdfunded successfully on Kickstarter, what rewards were most successful. That's how I built my campaign, based on other people's past successes. I made a database of all my friends. I went through Facebook. I created a list of everybody that I'm connected with that I thought would donate, how much I thought they would donate, and Instagram and TikTok and all the other places, put that in a spreadsheet and tracked how many times I contacted people to make sure that everybody got at least 7 contact points. And you're not bugging people, because some of the people that donated to my campaign, on the 7th time, they're like, oh my God, I'm so glad you reminded me. I wanted to donate. I just got paid today. Thank you for reminding me. Oh my gosh. So
Totally. Do you mind if, I'm speaking in draft, do you mind if I ask you for that spreadsheet? Because I'm going to
Yes.
email them something and then I could
Oh,
send it
yeah.
out through that as
Yeah,
well.
which one? The one about
Or the
the-
one sheet
the
that you were talking about?
the one sheet, I'll give you whatever you got. You can just
Perfect.
email
Yeah,
it.
so I
Okay.
can also email that one sheet to everybody.
Okay, cool.
Keeping up with my theme of delusion, I self-financed my show. It was money, a little bit from my savings, and also like I cash flowed myself where I knew like I have a well-paying job, and so like I knew that like I could spare this much money every month, and so I started spending my money since early February, and like in February I bought some props, and this month I did the. Also, in my delusion, I paid all of my actors, and having 10 actors, it's a lot of money to pay people. But I was lucky enough that the ticket sales were able to offset the vast majority of my costs, not everything, but the way I saw it for myself is if I had produced a short film, I would have spent 30K, at least 20, 30K easy, and I would have gotten zero money back. In this case, I spent less than that, and I got money back. And so, like, in the end, it was a good investment on myself. And for me, it had other reasons why it paid off, because it was like I was seeing it more as an investment on myself rather than making money.
Totally.
Again, delusion.
Totally. Let's talk about what fundraising techniques work for you and the different things that you've tried. Is there anything that you recommend within that? Specifically, I know that we're going to talk mostly about crowdfunding, but other people have like sold merch or done other things as well. So, yeah, what did you do?
That's a great question. I do remember for a show that I did, not with the Fringe, but we were trying to raise a substantial amount, and we were thinking of perks and things we wanted to offer to people that were also going to be, I think, as was stated earlier, not as heavy as a lift on our end. Because when you're producing a show, there's already enough things you're focusing on than, making bread for everyone or doing something that feels like
Not a good idea.
I'm taking way too much of my time with that. And we did a really fun thing because this was a show that we did that was it was a Shakespeare mashup horror show. We were doing an adaptation of The Two Gentlemen of Verona and Titus Andronicus as a slasher movie. And part of that was we had, if you donate this amount, the character of Julia will write you a love letter. So for anyone who's read the play, it's a huge thing. Monologue's been done for years of her tearing up this love letter and then trying to put it back together. And our actress, very graciously, I did not expect her to do this, was like, oh, I'll write them. That's fine. I'm so excited. So she hand wrote notes to whoever did it, just this like, dearest so-and-so. And it was this very fun, very flowery message that she would like hand write. We sealed it up. We gave it a little, seal on there. And then we sent them to whoever donated that much. And it was a nice little personal thing that was not a really huge lift on our end. She volunteered to write them herself. And then we just sent them out. So it didn't really even cost us that much to do. But it was such a nice little personal touch that people got. And they were like, oh, that's so cool. I love that. So that's the first thing that came to mind with that. And just to reiterate what was said earlier as well, in general, if you ever feel nervous about that you're annoying people for asking for donations or to come see your show, don't. Just push through that because you're not being annoying. You're just trying to sell your show.
And if somebody thinks you're being annoying, then they're not a good friend, and you shouldn't be friends with them. Like, duh. Like, I would never be annoyed with my friend for asking vulnerably for something that's important to them. And if it's important enough to you, they should support you in that.
Absolutely. I'll hand it over.
Okay, so in that handout that I can email you, the big worksheet, and there's a worksheet and a big, multiple page document. I go through each different crowdfunding option and opportunity. I recommend Kickstarter, and I recommend the all or nothing model. One of the best reasons I recommend Kickstarter is because you can pre-launch, and pre-launch, think about crowdfunding. The most important part of crowdfunding is your pre-launch. It's what you do before you launch. And so with Kickstarter, you build your campaign and make a video. You have to have one of those intro videos. You have to have a list of who's working on your show. You have to have, accurate and reasonable documentation of what your expenses are going to be. I mean, make it look like it's a business proposal, and think about the things that you would be interested in seeing in someone else's crowdfunding campaign. But the pre-launch part is you build all this on Kickstarter, and then you take your 5 to 10 most likely investors and you email them a link and say, hey, I'm about ready to launch a crowdfunding campaign. I'd really like it if you would help me out. Take a look at what I've written and what I'm offering, and help me make sure this is a good campaign before I launch it. What you're doing is two things. You're getting good feedback, but you're also getting them invested. And as soon as you take one of their ideas and you get them involved in helping you, they're going to be your first backers. And they'll probably be the backers that spend the most money. And just a little bit of history about crowdfunding for me. When I was in high school, I wrote my first song. My creative writing teacher said, why don't you make that into a record? And I'm like, I don't have $1,000 to make a record. Records are these old things that they're like these vinyl circle discs that you play. And he said, why don't you go to each student and collect $1 in advance? My song became senior class song. And he says, so why don't you collect $1 in advance from each student and tell them that you'll give them a record at graduation? And that's how I made my first record, because 1,000 students donated $1 each. So, did I answer your questions?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Absolutely.
I did not crowdfund.
Did you? Yeah, no problem.
Did you launch or anything like that?
No, we focus only on ticket sales.
Which was successful for you. Yeah. Do you typically like to save in certain areas when you're budgeting? So we're going to go into the budgeting area, like props and lighting design, or do you spend in others, like graphic design, costumes? Do you spend in things like PR? Where are the things that you spend in, and where are the things that you do yourself?
I think that when it comes to the technical side, I think it's really important to, if your show is not very heavily technical at all, you're probably okay. If it is, I would say focus in on one or maybe at most two elements that you really want to highlight. Is it lights, sound, set, costumes, props, whatever it is, and allocate yourself a little bit more money in your budget for that one or maybe two categories. And then for the other categories, don't say nothing, but just limit those back, because the chances of you, putting in a high number for all of those categories is going to make it a lot harder on your end to try to do all of that. But if your show is mostly focused on lighting and you really want to highlight that, take more for that. If it's a soundscape you're doing, allow more for that. So just go through and see what's most crucial to the piece for you, and then. So I think that, that's important to look at the technical element, and especially with Fringe, sometimes it moves really quickly. And so you also want to keep that in mind of much, what's not enough. But in terms of where you're allocating money elsewhere, I personally believe in that you should pay your people, even if it's not a whole bunch. And so set that aside as well. And it's going to look different based on what your budget is. It may not be that much, but just be straightforward with people. Just let them know ahead of time. It's like, hey, I want to give you this much. If you start expecting people to do it for nothing, if you expect people to work for free, you might get people, but then you'll run into other issues there with reliability, and if it's going to meet the image that you've made for what you want your show to be.
I really quickly have a sub question really quick about that. And a little comment here, which is that, legalities around hiring people is a thing. And also there are several ways that you can kind of skirt around that by having people being a volunteer and then having reimbursable expenses. You can reimburse for parking, you can reimburse for mileage, can reimburse. So if you do end up doing a stipend, make sure that you're calculating what those reimbursements would be versus if you're paying people hourly at a legitimate rate, just to save yourself in case the lovely IRS comes after you.
Excellent point. Yes.
And then I also wanted to ask, have you, so you are a tech person, how have you utilized that within saving for your budget?
I really just like to look at what the show is. So, for example, I did a show last year that was a horror show. It was a ghost story, and so I knew ahead of time that lights are going to be super important, and sound is going to be super important. And like we had some costume pieces that we threw together. We didn't try to like put too much on that. We had some unfortunately, where we were at had a lot of props and set pieces that we were able to use. That was just what the venue offered, which saved us a lot of money there. But we knew that lights and sound is going to be crucial, so we have to devote more time and more money to making sure that we're doing that right. Because if we can't sell the lights and the sound of a ghost story, then no one's gonna buy it. No one's gonna believe that. So I think it just really became down to the show dependency of whether that's important or a different show where I was like, costumes are more important because we're going in between times so much. We need to show the passage of time. And for that, it was like, set, it can be sparse. It's in a living room. It doesn't particularly matter. So yeah, a lot of it just kind of depends on the script. So knowing ahead of time, looking at your script, just marking down for yourself, what is the most important thing? And if you need everything, just reanalyze it maybe for a moment and think, how can I restructure this? Or maybe I should think of a different show that I'm doing for this. But yeah.
And remember, there's some instances where you can't save on tech. So many of our venues do require that you use their technician and that you only have somebody who can call a show next to that person. So make sure that you are completely aware of what your venue contract is before you go into these situations, and really remember about tech time. Don't book an hour and a half of tech time or 2 hours and then have hundreds and hundreds of cues. It's not going to happen. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I just final thing on that, yes. Oh, yes, tech time. This is probably a different discussion entirely. But if you can book yourself some extra time, just do it. Even if you think your show isn't that technically all over the place, like, you can always use a little bit more time than you think that you do. And yeah, you'll spend a little bit more money, but it is so worth it that you're not stressing at the end of tech of like, we haven't even gotten to run the show, guys. We're just going to run it at the first preview.
And if you don't understand what we're talking about, put extra money in there for now, and then comes out How to Tech Your Fringe show, where we're going to talk all about it and what is required.
So remind me real quick of what my answer.
Yes, so our question is, where do you like to spend and where do you like to save when it comes to your production?
Okay, so everything that I needed to do for my show, I could do myself, except for directing. I've never done a show before, so I hired a director. Then the other thing that, I mean, I can do graphics, I can do audio engineering. I've done all these things as work, but I was also writing a play and I was rehearsing a play. And the key element, I also teach a webinar on self-care. One of the key elements is not having a nervous breakdown, because this is your baby. This is, most important thing in your life for this period of time. And so what I did was I hired people to do things that I knew I wouldn't be subjective enough to do. Like, I hired a person to do my poster because I can't stand my own image. It would take me forever to pick. I hired a photographer. It would take me forever to pick a good picture. I did make my own logo. I did end up editing my video footage and editing my trailers and my reviews and all those things, but I hired a video team to set up 2 cameras and videotape it. Let's see, I hired a publicist. I hired somebody to, the director. I hired video. I hired a QLab person to take all my slides and my sounds and my voiceovers and video clips and make the QLab. And yes, most definitely focus on getting a really nice QLab design made and give yourself plenty of tech time, because that makes or breaks your show sometimes, because if your cues don't go right, you're going to mess up on stage. And then the other thing that a lot of people don't talk about is budgeting for self-care. Like, I actually had to put in a budget for and spend money on the different things that I did for self-care, like the meditation and some of even my AI membership, I budgeted as self-care because I used AI every morning. I would write my journal page, drop it into AI and say, gently analyze my journal and psychoanalyze my journal and help me unpack my thoughts about my show and visualize a successful show. And then it would create this long script I play back when I work out. So, there's all different ways of making sure that you're taking care of yourself. Even if you feel like you can do everything yourself, just make sure that you're not spreading yourself too thin, because, and here's the other thing to think about too. When you hire somebody, even if it's something that you can do, when you hire somebody to do that other role, collaboration comes into play. And now you're going to get somebody else's ideas. And, oh my gosh, they're invested in it. And so they're probably going to come and see their show. And they're probably going to be, as a solo musician, I have to bring all of my friends to a show. But if I'm in a band, then there's that many more people bringing their friends to a show. So collaboration is really fun. You know, it helps you network and get to meet people.
I spend more than you need to spend. I think there's ways that I could have maybe spent less money in general throughout my project. Because I had 10 actors and so many scenes that required so many people, I couldn't rehearse at my house, so I ended up booking a lot of rehearsal time in my theater. I ended up booking a lot of extra, because I did want to do tech and then run it at least once in the theater before, so we had an official dress rehearsal. So I paid extra money on that. I in general feel like I splurged a little bit in set design, because I could have bought things on Craigslist that I ended up buying fresh off Amazon, because it was the thing that I needed, but it's furniture that now I use in my apartment, so it's fine. But there's other places where I saved, like my play was about a funeral, so everybody wore black, and most people wore things in their closet, and some people wore things in my closet if they didn't have things in their closet that fit them. In a previous life, I was a publicist, so I knew I could do the PR thing myself. I don't have the same relationships, and I don't necessarily know the same people in theater, but like I knew that if I took some time and did some work myself, I could do it. I am not the best designer, but I was like, I think I can save a little bit of money here in doing this thing on Canva myself. So there were places that I utilized the skills that I already have, and there were others where, like, for example, the last time I did anything related to theater, I was in college. And so I made the decision that I wanted to hire a stage manager to help me with calling the cues, because I didn't know how to do that. Like, when I've been in theater in college, I was an actress, not a stage manager. So like I try to do things that would help me put together the best, again, in the most delusional way possible, like the best show at the highest quality level possible, so that it would present itself the best, and then we could make money out of ticket sales.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, you just brought up a really great point that I would like to reiterate for in your budget, rehearsal space. Give yourself some wiggle room on that, because if you're able to rehearse in your home, your apartment, your house, whatever it is, that's great. Obviously, you're not spending any money there. At some point, you're probably gonna wanna get out of there, especially if you're in a small apartment and your stage is not nearly that small, and you'll wanna find rehearsal space that's a little bit bigger. It may not be the exact size, but it'll get you into a better idea of what the spacing is before you get in the space itself, and you may not have time to reblock everything when they're like, yeah, well, we got to get through all the cues, and you got to get out of here in 2 hours or whatever it is. So rehearsal space is huge. Definitely allocate something for that.
And I must say, having rehearsed in the theater was really helpful for such a large cast to be very familiar. Like, we ended up like, all we had was 6 5-hour rehearsals throughout, like, every Sunday of May and June, like, or April and May, and that was enough.
You had 6 5-hour rehearsals?
6 5-hour rehearsals for a 1.5-hour play with very professional actors. But because we were in that space, like, we didn't have to like spend rehearsal time later, blocking and reblocking and moving things around, because we were already in the same space.
Wait a minute, so 5-hour rehearsals 6 times. Oh my goodness.
It's amazing.
They were amazing actors.
Yes.
Also, ding ding, discount alert. Hollywood Fringe, go into that little artist hub, because we have discounts throughout there on videographers, photographers, all of designers, all of those types of things, but also in rehearsal space. So there's both the spaces that you might rent for your run, but also there's other spaces that are just purely rehearsal space.
Since mine was a solo play, I was the only one that was talking, but what I did was I recorded myself rehearsing and then fell asleep to that every night, so that I would have my script playing in my head as I fell asleep.
I would be in psychosis. I could never.
And and
I
the-
need the dulcet tones of Bob's Burgers.
and I must say, like, I paid for a photographer and a videographer for we ended up recording our preview show, and those preview photos we use in so many social, like the amount of social media materials that I utilized from those preview shots, and then the great thing about having it recorded is that now my actors had an extra piece for their reel, and like one of my actors was changing agents, and like that was like those things are helpful. Beyond just, documenting.
I fully agree. I think documentation is one of the strongest things you can budget for. And I do agree that like some people do, like I'll do photos in previews, but I know that I want to work it out a little bit and I'll do video later on in the run. Totally fine. You don't have to book them at the same time. You can book them at the same time.
We ended up having to, I ended up booking a second videographer to shoot the closing show. And we like trimmed just in pacing alone 10 minutes out of it, and like performance wise it wasn't that much difference, but like most of my actors wanted to use the second show instead of the first one. So yeah, maybe don't book your videographer on your opening night.
Or if you do, maybe it makes sense because you have like a kind of in the pocket show that you've done before, you've done it in front of audiences, which is quite common now at Fringe, that this might not be the world premiere of this exact act. So let's talk, we're gonna move, we have about like 30 minutes before we move into questions. And so we're gonna move into like ticketing marketing so that people can then translate that into budgeting. So let's talk about audience size and defining and setting realistic audience goals. What was the size of your theater, and do you feel like you were able to fill the seats you thought you were going to?
Delusional again. I did not budget thinking that we were not gonna sell all of our shows. I somewhere in there, Roddy has seen my budget, and it only has like my best case scenario and the profit. Delusion. But when I was budgeting, I did look at 50 seaters, 25 seaters. I ended up going with the Actors Company, which has 80 seats. And part of my decision was like, what's the cost of the rental versus what's the amount of seats? Because like places like the Broadwater had 99 seats, and this was like, but I ended up like literally had maybe 9 or 10 different versions of my Excel with like, this is scenario 1, this is scenario 2, this is scenario if I pay the actors, this is scenario if I pay the actors this amount, this scenario if I pay the actors this other amount. So like I had a lot of different versions.
Totally.
And that also is the reason why I ended up going for a little bit of a higher ticket price than a traditional Fringe show, but also didn't go super far. I compared it to like, I charged $35 for my show, but also it's what I paid to see my friend's show at the Atwater and my friend's show at the other theater. Like, so it was sort of what I assumed people would be willing to pay for a full 90-minute play with 10 actors.
And they did from
and
your
they did,
audiences,
and like,
yeah.
and just to wrap it up, we were ambitious. We paid for 9 shows. We ended up having to cancel one because somebody got COVID, and we had to cancel a show. But out of our 8 shows, 6 of them were sold out, and some of them were sold out because we did like, I gave every actor had 6 comps in total. But some people had more or less. I also invited a lot of industry people, casting directors and things like that. And so like we gave away, depending on the show, 20 seats here and there, some shows more, some shows less. But like honestly, our last 4 shows, people couldn't get tickets, and like it was a blessing to be, that successful. Again, in the full delusion.
And I think it's about knowing your audience too. You were like, I know that I have friends that will pay this, therefore I will set it at that. And I think that's so important. If you do have those audiences, make that money. But if you're relying heavily on Fringe audiences, it'll be a little bit different.
And I think the thing that was really helpful is I did have 10 actors. 10 actors with a lot of friends. And if in my case, our show was all Latino cast, like it appealed to like a subsegment of like Latino actors, like community, Latinas acting up kind of a thing. And so like it became a community event for a lot of my community. And it was an audience that is not the Fringe audience. It was a different audience who have never experienced Fringe maybe, but they would be willing to pay for a ticket for a play of Latinos. And so that was successful for us. And if you look at it, like everybody had to buy like, I don't know, 10 friends per show. Like it's not that much if you look at it that way.
Yeah.
I had not done any theater, so I was not going to have like an audience from like the theater community, but I did have, my show was Trans Mom versus Family Court, and it was about me fighting for custody of my daughter when I transitioned in '95 without an attorney. And so it was kind of like a court reenactment, and because it's such a topical issue, you know, there was a lot of interest just because that is so like, you know, in the news a lot. And I had a lot of people from the LGBTQ Center come. I had discount codes for them. I tried to market, you know, with call to action, but, you know, I was really nervous about how many tickets I would sell. So I did the same thing. I put out 4 or 5 different budget scenarios where nobody comes and then everybody comes and then the things in between, because I just wanted to know, you know, if I'm going to not have that big of a turnout, what's my actual bottom line, what's the bottom line cost gonna be, and then what's the most that I can expect. And, you know, we did really good. I mean, we sold out, one of the shows sold out, I think it was the last show. I only did 3 shows. Again, I was trying to be conservative. Having never done it before, I'm like, oh my God, 5 shows. I wish I would have done 5 shows, because at the end of doing 3 shows, I'm kind of like, God, I want to do this again now. I'm just getting good. I'm just remembering my lines. I mean, I'm just, right? And, you know, just so you know, I'm doing the show again. One of the awards that I won was for the Joy Who Lived Festival, which is a trans and gender nonconforming festival that happens in from the last day of March until April, and I'm on the 12th, April 12th. But I'm redoing my show for that, but I'm converting it from a solo show to an ensemble show. So that will give it a whole different life, hopefully. I mean, it's scaring the crap out of me to change it, but still, I tried not to think too much about how many people were coming, because really, the most important thing was that the story got out, and that I was able to accomplish this. I have a motto of don't be afraid to suck at something new. It's not I didn't invent that phrase, but I'm always the kind of person that if something scares me, then I have to do it. And so that's why I'm doing the ensemble conversion. So, because it scares the crap out of me.
From what I've seen with audiences, I usually now expect that once you open, you'll probably have some good, like, you know, just like energy coming in. So at the very beginning, you might get very packed houses for that. And usually at the end of the run, people have heard about you, hopefully, and they'll be coming in. And then your last couple shows will also be high selling. The tricky part is the middle ground, because there are so many shows to see. There are so many things happening. And so it's easy to, once the show's on its feet, to think like, okay, we're open, that's great. The work's just getting started, because at that point, you have to go out and, yes, your friends, family, coworkers, like hopefully they come out to see it. It's then about, how do I bring in other people who I don't know, who don't know me? And so at that point, you spend a lot of time going out to the Broadwater Plunge. You're spending a lot of time there talking to people, getting to know them, and walking in and genuinely asking them about what they're doing, finding out about their show, and then getting the opportunity to talk about yours. And the more you do this, it can be exhausting. And again, self-care, take that day off if you need it, 2 days off, take it, please. It's so easy to burn out. I've burned out at Fringe before. It's not fun. So take that time off when you need it, and then come back and hit the ground running again, because as you keep doing that, you will see people you talk to who you don't know will go, oh, wait, I heard about that show. That sounds really interesting. When is that going up? And then you just have those dates ready to go, and you let them know, and that will help bring your audience up in the middle. It may not be quite as high, but you will pack that house a whole lot more if you're going out and you're hitting the ground, hitting the pavement, and you're just talking to people. You're talking to people, you're finding out about their stuff, you get to talk about your stuff, and it's just, it can feel relentless, but it is so worth it in the end.
I want to just reiterate, it is important to budget your time. It's really important right now that you are if you are the producer on your production, you should not do anything else in June other than resting and maybe like, one or two things to engage your community. But everything and I'm not saying don't see your friends. I'm saying go see your friends with the idea that you're also going to be talking about your show and selling tickets. Like you will be in May and June. Every room you're in is still you're still kind of playing with your show. So budget that time now, start to figure out what your timing is going to look like, and start to prioritize what those couple of not off nights, not at Fringe nights are going to be, because you won't really you won't have the best experience if you're not really engaging in the Fringe community and being a part of the little adult summer camp feel that happens where you really engage with people. You really make lifelong friendships, but also artistic connections, industry connections, and you really build your theater community that way.
I'm going to just say yes on that, because I went to every office hours, all the workshops. I was learning and I was gaining experience, but one of the things I found was that people that I met at the office hours would bring their non-theater friends to see the show. And I carried my postcards everywhere I went. I had them in my pocket or my briefcase. And I work in coffee shops a lot, and there was always a stack of my postcards there. And I made a point to, there's a lot of coffee shops that I do this little circuit, and everybody there, I would go up to them, talk to them. It was really hard to do. I had to write an AI script just to convince me to go talk to people that I don't know and promote the show. So yeah, it's really helpful to count on the Fringe network. I gave a lot of tickets away. I did a lot of comp swaps where, I would go to someone's show and they would come to mine. And I don't count that as a loss. I count that as expanding my network.
Do you have something?
I was just gonna say something outside of that, which is track your expenses. Track everything, track it in an Excel grid, track it as it's happening in the moment or as close as it can be in the moment. It will be helpful for your taxes later. It is, even if you have a show where you lose money, it might be helpful if you did track your expenses in your refund.
100%. Your taxes are, if you are the person that's receiving and paying out money, it is so important that you report on it and that you have the documentation for that, because that is a part of making this theater company happen. I want to talk about marketing. How do you factor marketing into your budget? Was it a large amount or a small amount? Did you do any paid advertisement?
I did the printed guide. And I think that was a really good, visibility thing. And I did the website the website ads, which I kept that running the whole time. I liked the results that I got from both of them, and I used codes in both of them, and that way I could track how many tickets actually came as a result of those, using those codes. You can use an unlimited amount of codes, so I used codes for every different scenario. But marketing, QR codes, I would print t-shirts. First of all, the best tip, go to Got Print. They're in Burbank, right by the airport. I mean, their prices are really good. If you're a first-time customer, you get a 20% discount. They make shirts for $10, full-color shirts. I would take my QR code and put it right on my shirt. And I would wear those shirts to office hours and everywhere I would go around town. So marketing was a big part of the effort that I spent, but I didn't have to spend that much money on it, but it was the time. And then also social media marketing. There are tools that you can use where you can post one thing and it'll propagate to all your different sites. There's a biz tool with Facebook and Instagram that you can use to schedule posts, where you can sit down on a Sunday and schedule a month's worth of posts, so that you don't have to be doing it every day and reminding it, because you have to get in a different headspace. I mean, you're a performer, and then you're a marketer, and then, all these different things that you're doing really takes, a big toll on your brain to keep switching hats. So the most things that you can do that run by themselves, the better. So yeah, marketing is a really important part, and going to the office hours was a big part of that.
Absolutely, yeah. I think for marketing, at least online, I've found that Instagram is hugely helpful. If you can boost your ads, even better. They have a lot of different options on there, and it's not nearly as expensive as you'd think, but it makes a huge difference because it keeps it, again, it's like you see it the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th time, and then they're like, oh yeah, I should probably go see that. And this also goes along with like posting on either your own profile, if you have a profile for your company, whatever that is. It's huge, and it's posting it, sharing the story as well, but mostly posting it and leaving it up there so people can see it again and again. This kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier about like if you think you're posting too much or you think you're annoying people, you're not. You're not doing it at all. You are selling your show. People realize that. They appreciate that. So don't be shy about that. That's huge. And then as for in-person marketing, yes, postcards, anything like that, always important to have on hand from as early as you can get them. Take them everywhere. I'm the same. I have them once I have them wherever I go, work, not work, whatever I'm doing. I always have them ready to go. And I don't do this for every show, but I personally, I really love business card marketing just because I can fit them in my pocket. I can fit a bunch in my pocket very easily. I take them out. I can hand them to people. They can put them in their pocket. They're not having to fold it up. Sometimes you need a postcard, and that's fine. But they're not folding them up. They can have them right there, and it's something that's tangible that they can bring back out and go, oh yeah, that sounded like kind of an interesting thing. I should check that out. It worked really well for the show that we did last year, our ghost story, because our main character was a realtor who was showing off a house that turns out that it's haunted. She was a realtor, so we just made a business card. That was her business card in the show. And we just had her information on the front, and then you flip it over, and we had the name of the show, the dates, QR codes, all that pertinent information, location, and then they could just flip it over. So you have to get very creative of what you're fitting on there and what's important. But it's a nice little alternate to, if you feel you have to carry around a bunch of postcards with you, business cards are a great alternative for that.
I love when I get like an alternative postcard. Like last year, there was the tissue. Every year, there's like tissues that people will do their poster, and then like a QR code. Condoms every year, lube every year. Like I would say that those don't get used very often. So think about that. Whereas the tissues I used, but like who's gonna trust something so intimate from marketing? Probably not very many people.
Wait a minute, she's going to answer, but I also had to add your crowdfunding campaign is marketing. It's also marketing because it gives you another thing to post about. And these were things that I used.
Yes.
These trans mom versus family court, silicone bracelets. So yeah, that's anything that you can think of as creative. One of the shows that was, there was a show last year in the dark, and they gave out face masks that you sleep with and earplugs, right?
That was so helpful.
I'm still using them every night.
I used them at my birthday party because I didn't have a mask, and then I was like, I got it, Red Officers, and we were doing a pinata. So my pinata birthday party was Fringe marketing. Things that are useful.
My most effective investment in marketing was getting a Canva subscription. It's so cheap and so helpful. And like I made so many different things with like using and playing around with Canva, and it could be other things, like it could be Adobe, but like for me, like that allowed me, and obviously like if you can't afford or have a designer friend or want to spend in the designer and you're not gifted, like that's totally fine. But for me, it was a way that I could really do a lot of different marketing materials, our poster, our postcards, our social media. Like also social media can be free. And if you have a large cast, collaborations are great. And one of my actors had 300,000 followers on Instagram. So like every time I tagged her on like we did a collaboration, like that had a huge impact. Yeah. Also, a lot of the press that we got a little bit of press for the project. I don't know, like a Hispanic magazine did a story on my actress and me. Another like social media thing did a story on us. So like all of those little things, which were free, ended up having impact because like if the reporter from the magazine posted and then the magazine posted and the story dropped and also like it allows us to have like different variety of, so like we're not just posting the poster every single text. Like we had when we revealed the poster, when I revealed the cast, when we were covered in LA Weekly and we post that story, and then like when we were in Hollywood Reporter, we posted that story. So like constantly having things in our page.
Totally. So we're gonna get into questions and just after 2 more questions that I have for you. And the first one is, what makes a show stand out for you, and what makes you choose to go to a Fringe show?
Okay. Wow. I would say, kind of going back to going places in person and meeting people and hearing about their show is so huge. And if someone's coming up to me and they're talking about their show and they have all this enthusiasm about it, this passion about it, this drive to tell this story that they just can't keep it, and they're just like throwing it out there. It might be about a subject I never thought that I would immediately go out and see, but like purely their enthusiasm and talking about it has just made me stop and go, wait, let me mark this down. Let me look at the dates. Let me see what's happening. And it's just, and I've seen some shows I never expected to see that I've walked out of at the end and gone, that was amazing. That was so much fun. And it's just that pure energy that you have and the love that you have for the project you're doing it can easily convince me to go. And that's, besides the fact that if you're doing a horror show, I'll be like, ooh, what's that about? And I'll definitely want to come check that out. But I love hearing about shows that I've never heard of from people I don't know and I haven't met. But you can just, you just get that feeling right away when it's like, not that you're being sold either. It's not someone saying like, here's my thing, come to my show, here's my card, and they walk away and they don't even like look at you. It's let's have a conversation and let me tell you about what I'm doing because I think it's really cool and I want to tell you. You've got my attention. I'm like, tell me more.
Yeah.
Branding, since I work in branding usually helps me remember or remember about a show, but actually to go see a show, 100% that. 100% the magnetism, the confidence, the excitement, the amount of times I talked to that person. Like there were some people that I saw every time at office hours and I couldn't wait to see their show, even though it wasn't like, I'm a science fiction person and generally if I only went to see science fiction shows, there weren't that many of those. But there were a lot of shows that I saw that I would have never seen had I not met the person and got interested in them. And then the other thing was there were a lot of people that came to see my show that I kind of felt like, well, I have to go see their show too because they came to see mine, and I was like pleasantly surprised. So, yeah, and I got sick right in between my second show and my third show, so I missed like a whole week of seeing shows. Again, self-care. I just got to take care.
Can you define branding a little bit? What that means?
So branding, like this is the trans symbol right here, and so branding is something I use the trans symbol on everything. So something that associates recognition with your message. I mean, you got to really have a focus group on it. You have to come up with a title that's really catchy, something that has to do with what it can't be so arbitrary that nobody knows, they don't connect the two. But branding is something that people are going to remember you by, whether it's the colors that you use, the fonts that you use, the symbols, or the photograph, or a tagline. But it's the consistency and the repetition of using something that's easily identifiable, super memorable, and they see it on everything. They see it on everything.
There's 400 shows. It's really hard to even know what the shows are about. Like, you're lucky if you get to see the guide and read every log line. Most people don't have the time to do that. I feel like the shows that I went to last year were because people I knew were involved, or because there were people that I met over office hours who were interesting, or were wearing a funny costume, or we had an interesting conversation while eating chicken wings, or whatever. But like, so the idea of going to office hours for me felt really overwhelming because this is not my community. And like, most of the times I would go by myself. But every week I pushed myself to go, and every week I met somebody else, somebody who had a really good story. And you slowly, but like, that's why showing up is so important, because if you don't show up, people like me would never get to hear what your story is about, and they won't be able to come.
And that's what makes word of mouth, is being able to have those people will write a review, because they all know how important reviews are in that first week. And you can have those pull quotes even in that first week to continue your marketing. I love that. Before we get to your questions, I actually really quickly, I know that we have 2 venues in the room at least. I see 2. Do you want to just quickly come up here and tell us about your venues that are available in case people are still looking? Yeah. Yeah. The camera is
Get
good.
the fuzzy mic.
So if you want to sit in my
Oh my goodness. Hi, I'm Jen. I run
Well, I'm from the Stagecraft, so we have several venues. So we have the Hobgoblin Playhouse, which I've been saying is sold out, but then we just had a show who had to push to next year. So I have one schedule available at the Hobgoblin, if you're interested. We also have the Madnani Theater. We have the Promenade Playhouse at LA Pac, which is if you have a very big show with a big cast and need numerous playing spaces, that's the place to look. And then we also have a new space called Bad Ladder, which has 2 spaces in it, kind of a traditional black box, and then a very cool little like psych studio, which is it's a very like alternative space. So if you're looking for something unique and different, check it out. These guys were talking about tech time. We are producers first. We produced every single year at Fringe since it started. So we actually include a tech and a dress rehearsal in all of our packages because we feel ya. Like that's what we always wanted. So we include that. So check with your venue to see what they include because I know that this year a lot of us are including a ton of this stuff. So yeah, hooray. Oh, and also I'm going to be doing a little field trip with some people to the Promenade Playhouse right after this. So if you would like to come with me on my field trip, let me know and we will all go up there.
Is that the one that you said that has a lot of spaces? The big
Yeah, it has 3 playing spaces.
Cool.
It's super cool. Okay, there you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello, I'm Casey. We manage the Zephyr Theater upstairs at El Centro and Lounge on Melrose. Yay! We've got 74 seats here in the Zephyr Theater. We are filling up quick. So if you are interested, send us an email ASAP. I have some flyers here. We also have upstairs at El Centro, we have some great availability there. That is a 48, 49 seat theater. It is a brick backdrop. It's beautiful for smaller casts. We don't have a dressing room specifically there. We have a changing room, but it's amazing. We have some open houses later on this month if you want to come check them out.
And what about Theater on Melrose? You didn't talk about that.
Oh, Lounge on Melrose. We've got 2 studios there available for smaller casts as well. It's more of a single performer space, but we also have it available for immersive shows. So if you have an immersive show, we have 5 studios available, and we'd love to show you those spaces.
Amazing. So this is the Q&A portion, then I'll save my question for the end because sometimes we run out of questions in the room. So if you have a question, raise your hand. I'll bring this over, and you're going to say your name, your show, give us like a 1 line about what the show is, start your marketing now, and then ask your question. And I see this, and then this, and then this, and then this, and then I'll come back for more.
Hello, my name is Louisa. I am the producer and director of the show called Slumber Party. It's about 3 teen girls who are hosting a slumber party, but something very, very weird happened and culty happened to them the week before, and they don't know how to not talk about it. They're desperately trying not to talk about the thing that happened. They will be talking about the thing that happened. I do have one quick question. Kind of a question and a follow-up question. Have you noticed if whether or not a website, like a certified, like having its own website is helpful, or if just like an Instagram is good enough?
I didn't do a website, but I did a Facebook page and an Instagram page for the show. And I did that because that's what my training with working for other companies has been. But what I found out was that I ended up getting people to come to my personal page too because that's associated with me. But as far as having a separate website, I mean, it's really important, I think, after your show, but I think before your show, again, you're going to be focusing on trying to drive traffic there. It's sometimes better to have an area of your own website that has that featured on there because you're already getting traffic there. But I mean, by all means, if you have the staff and the time to do it, it can't hurt.
And then the follow-up would be also, for a QR code, where would I send that
QR
to?
codes are free. Just go to
Would I
Google and say free QR code generator. Adobe has one, Canva has one. There's a bunch of other places where you can get it.
Instead of building a new website, use the Fringe website, your landing project page, and my QR code went straight into the ticket buying website. So like that is, I just wanted people to go straight to tickets.
Thank you.
Quick note about the QR code.
Wait, Lois, hold.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Here, wait, I got this.
Okay.
only because I see it happen every year, especially with guide ads and things that go to print. Double check that your QR code is not free up until a certain amount of clicks. That will bite you in the ass so quickly, and once things are printed, there's a whole extra cost. So just double check. Canva does a free one. Yeah, it lasts forever, and Adobe, but just double check before you do a QR code that you have ultimate amount of clicks.
Yeah, I would agree with that about the website. It's nice to have a website. Thank you for the reminder. I need to go update mine for that purpose. But it's something that I would say maybe wait on that unless you have a company or you're starting something where then you want the website. Then I would recommend it. If you're not quite there yet and you're just doing a show for this, having the Fringe page as your landing page is incredible. That takes them right to all the information they need to know. Ticket information, all of that is huge. Reviews are there.
And it lasts forever. We don't take it down.
It's
and
true.
You can keep updating to the Fringe website. You can put photos and videos and
And if you want to create an Instagram page for your show, that's a great idea too. If you are considering that you're going to be doing more shows and if you have a company name or an idea for that, and if you're thinking ahead a little bit more, I would recommend creating an Instagram page for that company and then posting it on there and then also sharing it on your own personal one to really get the word out. That might be, that kind of depends on the person and the individual for what they want to do, but then that way you have all of your stuff, all of your shows will gather on one page as well.
I second that. My personal Instagram is closed, and so I created one for I created a production company entity for this Fringe project, which is what I'm gonna use for later in my life. And so that was the thing that I was sending people that I met at office hours to that page versus my personal page, which is more private.
Thank you for having this session. My name is Roz Brown, and I have a show that will be in the Fringe called In Search of Black People. You can laugh at that. It is funny, and it's a solo show. And my question is, do you have any communication with agents and casting directors? Because I will be looking for a new agent, and I wondered, does the Fringe reach out to them in any way?
So how the Fringe works with our industry program, which is changing a little bit this year, we work with theater companies, with certain production companies or other people that are regularly coming, but it's more we're reaching out to the companies, not to specific agents or things like that. That being said, sometimes agencies will say, hey, we're looking for this. Do you have anything that matches? But that's kind of, rare. What I would say is that if you're looking for somebody, you should create a list of those people that you're looking into that have who do you see the career of that has representation that you like? Make a list of who those agents are, and then you invite them to your show because you are a part of a showcase. The Fringe is a showcase of your work, and people are really welcome to have that, especially if they're also looking for clients. So less rely on the Fringe for that and more make that a part of your Fringe goals of what you're working on, specifically when it comes to casting engagements and things like that.
Yeah, it's for us, a very important part of it was bringing a lot of industry people and a lot of, again, large cast. So some of my actors had relationships with different casting directors or with a director or a producer or something. So we utilize a pool of all of our contacts. And also it happened that one of my friends is a casting director who gave me a list of the studio casting directors. So I could utilize his list to go, and I still had to personally send an email per person, very personal touch, but it is, you do your research and then what the work that you put in, it will pay off if you do the work.
And I would say that agents are very used to being invited to people's presentations like this, and it's not unheard of for you to send that email, even if you do not have a relationship. You just need to do the research and make sure that you fit into what they're looking for. So making sure that there is that this is a part of what they do. If they are looking for work like that, they will be excited to get an email. If they're not, they'll go, why did they email me?
Offer them 2 tickets, so them plus a guest. And if they cannot come to we invited people to opening night. If they cannot come to opening night, always offer, but come this other night. We have all of these other dates. So you're giving people the opportunity to say yes to another moment.
I'm gonna come over to this side, and I already saw 2 hands, and then I'm gonna come back over here. And if we don't get to your question, don't worry. We'll stand in the lobby and we'll try and answer them.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Max. I have a solo clown show coming to Fringe called Frank Sriracha, Home is Where the Stage Is. It's about Frank Sriracha, who's the wonder kid of the Sunset Strip, the greatest performer in the last 200 years. And he's having a Lifetime Achievement Award, but he keeps getting distracted during his big speech. My question is, for marketing, I feel like in the past when I've marketed shows like way early in advance, people get like they've seen the promo enough that they're like, whatever. Like they stop paying attention. Do you know what the sweet spot is for when to start really pushing the show?
How I decided to start marketing was when the tickets were on sale. There's no point in like starting to market if people cannot buy tickets because like we live in a instant gratification society where like we want to click on the thing. So like I did not make an effort to send the press release beforehand until whatever the press release cover like would include the link if they maybe included it.
I agree with that with two caveats. So because fundraising is going to happen before you have tickets available, that's why I said fundraising is an extra arm of marketing. Usually set your campaign for a month. Anything longer than that is it's statistically a month is the sweet spot for campaigns for crowdfunding. So you're going to market with your crowdfunding and you're going to send information out about that and promote that. And then when tickets are available is when I would start marketing to the general public and to press and industry, because press and industry, I don't want to really attract them to crowdfunding. It's mostly for the tickets.
Yes, definitely when tickets go on sale. And if you want to cheat that a little bit beforehand, look at for when you start rehearsals. And if you have someone else in the room, it could be a producer, someone who's helping you out, a volunteer, to just get pictures of you in the space getting ready. And then you can start teasing out of like, we're starting rehearsals, we're doing this. But what tickets are almost on sale? Not yet, but you got to come in. So it stokes it a little bit. And then when tickets go on sale, they're already like, what is this thing you keep posting about? It's like, well, it's right here. And then you have it for yourself right there.
Use all of your rehearsals as an opportunity to bank material for social media. There were so many days that like just having a little tiny photo shoot with the actors allowed me to have an extra post that week. Use it.
Oh, hi, my name is Valdereau. I'm a stand-up comedian. This is my very first Fringe, and I want to world debut a special called Bitch Need Jesus. It's about God, drugs, and transformation. And my question is, what is the average ticket price for the Fringe Festival?
So our sold tickets last year, listed price was 15, sold was 10. So that's, again, why you want to market in those different ways. This year, we are telling people that they can charge a little bit more because in surveying our audiences said that they would pay a little bit more. So for solo shows, and I'm going to try and remember this off of my computer, between $12 and $18 we're recommending. For ensemble shows, between $12 and $25. And for that specialty, like big musical, really large cast, or like immersive, more one-to-one or smaller groups, between $20 and $35. And then depending on what your audiences will pay, you want that. And then you'll want to add discount codes again for anybody who is coming in from the Fringe community, whether they're seeing lots of shows or the artist discounted price as well. Do you have something to add? Oh, I already did earlier, so I don't want to go over that again. Yeah, because we have so many questions.
Hi, my name is Linnea Pramo. Our show is The Trick and The Pearl. It's 2 one-acts by my husband who died 5 years ago, so I went back to school to learn how to direct, and my director here is Cosmic. She's going to be directing The Pearl. What I wanted to know is how many previews do you use, and how many previews do you usually use?
Preview shows?
Yes.
Yeah.
Since I had 3 shows, I only did 1 preview show.
Yeah, my standard practice has always been 1 preview.
Your venue's kind of going to assign it. They're going to do 1 or 2. Like for us, because we had 9 shows, we got 2 shows on preview week, although we treated each show as a regular show.
Yeah, you want to remember that it's really only like previews and name, and you want to have your full production there. And I would say 1 to 2 is pretty average, and it depends on how many shows you have. I see a hand here. I'm going to come back over here. We'll do 1, 2, come back over here, and then maybe get them all done. It's the holding, I know. I didn't wait very long for this.
Hi, I'm Ellen. I'm the writer and producer of I Totally Would Have Had a Threesome with You, which is a comedy about sexual politics between summer camp counselors. Thanks. My question for the panelists was what your guys' attitude on like printed marketing, specifically like playbills, was, and like if they're important to you guys, or if you decided to like not print playbills and save.
I spend a lot of money in playbills. The reality is they are not necessarily like you can do the same with just one sheet of paper with like the names of like I did the fancy like playbill.com and truthfully like I recycle a lot of them, and at the end of the show I had like I don't know I think I printed 750 to like accommodate for all of my seats, and I probably had like at least 300 extras. And so like you could probably print half of what you think you'll need, and then also recycle throughout the night if at the end of your show. But also you don't even need them, so it's a place where you can save a solid $500 if you want to. And similar with the postcards, the business cards are a cheaper way to do it. Like I saw people that just did it in like flyers instead of postcards. Like I think those were places where I could have saved money in retrospect.
I used to be a playbill graphic artist, so I did like hundreds of playbills for live theater when I worked for a company. So I did a playbill. I ended up with half of them as leftover. The one thing I would say about playbills, if you do it far enough in advance and you do more than just a gatefold one page, you can get like advertising and you can do some co-promotion with other shows. So, I mean, it depends on if you've got the budget for it and if you've got the time to do something far enough in advance. But generally, I think most people I don't think people keep them. I had people would turn them back in if they didn't want to keep them, and most people did. So.
Correct. Let's keep going. Sorry.
Hi, my name is David, and I'll be doing my second solo show right here at Zephyr. It's called Poster Child, How Charlie's Angels Kicked My Ass Out of the Closet. It's my coming out story from the 70s. My question is about going to office hours, which I really highly recommend, but because I did that 2 years ago for my first show. But if you're doing comp swaps, which I totally agree and I totally believe in that, but if you're approaching a fringer that wants to pay, what do you charge a fellow fringer? 2, 3, 5? What do you think is the best way to charge a fellow fringer?
I mean, that's a really good question. I think it is just kind of situation dependent. It depends. I think a big part of it is like, how well do you know this person? Have you worked on a lot of fringes together? Did you just meet them? And if they don't want to do a comp swap, if they do want to pay, I can't necessarily speak to what the price would be, but I would say if they want to do that, the one thing that you can ask of them is like, hey, it won't be a comp, but let's review swap. I'll come see your show. I'll write you up a review. You write me up a review, and then you can aggregate reviews that way and really build up things that way.
Reviews take time too, so if you're going to do that, budget in time.
I had about 8% of people that I comp swapped with that didn't come. For whatever reasons, and it's not their fault or whatever. I'm not mad about that, but it's just like, there were a lot of unused tickets because of that. So at the night of the show, I would have to say, okay, if, certain tickets aren't used by 5 minutes before the show, you can give them out or use those. But the other thing is pay what you can. Use the pay what you can.
Correct.
Yeah, I use pay what you can, and I also had a free code because for me, like if Fringe people wanted to come to see my show, like they were invited. But that's, again, it's everybody's policy.
I had more over here. Yes. Okay, we'll do these two, and then I'll go back over there.
Hi, my name is Daisy Villegas. This is going to be my first Fringe, and my show is a show that I wrote with Joey Contreras called Chameleon, and it's sort of a Prince and the Pauper story about a regular high school student who swaps lives for 1 week with an actor. And I was just wondering, I have no idea if you guys would know the answer to this, but as you guys can see, I'm disabled and I'm on Social Security. And so I'm wondering how to finagle like fundraising with the constraints that I have put on me by the darn government. Yeah.
Totally valid and totally something that has happened. And what I would recommend is if you have that co-producer, this is the reason to have a co-producer, is to have it be able to be somebody who can have that pass through. Because I think that, yeah, our government is so fucking stupid about how they treat disabled people, and the allowances that they allow are not even enough to live on. And so your show costs will put you above that. So have a trusted friend, and we can talk to you a little bit about that as well, because we've had several people who have had to do that for those reasons. Yeah, it's to work with somebody who can take that money and it's not as affecting their benefits.
Hey, my name is Sydney Hollingsworth. I'm writing and acting in a show called Jester. It's about a jester who dreams of working in the royal court, but like gets tangled up in like love and lust and the plague. So yeah. My question, you touched on this briefly, but what's the most effective way to get someone to review your show?
Most effective way to get someone to review your show. So this is just someone who's come and seen it, not someone you've talked to. Usually at the end of shows, whether it's yourself or it's one of your actors, can jump up, and it's Fringe, so you have to be out of there quickly. But you do your bows, you go, thank you so much for coming. This is our show. Maybe promote another show that you have like a friend doing, and then go, if you could leave us a review and just throw it out there every single time. We would really appreciate it. Any thoughts you have, please put it up as a review. It's not too much. We would do it after every show, whether it was myself or one of the other actors would jump up and say that before you have to get everyone out, because it's like, we gotta load out and get out of here. But yeah, it's like constantly after every single performance, please leave us a review. We would really appreciate it. And people take that. People will do it.
The last slide in my projection was the QR code to leave a review. So that's one way. It was in my playbill. And then I would go back to my list of the people that came to the show after the show and email them or message them on the platform and say, hey, thanks for coming to my show. It'd be really helpful if you could please leave a review. And people did.
Yeah, exactly. Like we send an after show email the next day with the link to exactly where to put the reviews. We didn't get reviewed enough, so we could have done more. But you do get the list of everybody that came to your show that day, so you could email them afterwards.
And let them know how important it is, because the reviews are something that I then grabbed the text of them and I made like trailer videos and little shorts and stuff of just the reviews. The other thing I want to say about marketing and social media, reels are better than posts. So if you're gonna post things, you want to get traction, YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, TikTok Reels, they get so much more traction than just single images or slide carousels.
And then this is something that you might not be thinking of, but like people that review your show can vote for your show for the awards, because my show did not have a lot of people that were Fringe community, and it did not get enough reviews, and then it was not, it didn't qualify for awards. Not that it would have won awards, but like if you do the effort of getting people to get the reviews earlier, then you avoid getting into this issue later.
We have time for two more. Here? Yes, and yes, I know you've had your hand up.
Oh, no, you're good. Do I need to stand up?
Yeah, please.
Oh, okay.
And your name and your show.
Oh, my goodness. Hi, I'm Allie Kiko-Mislowski. I am the writer, director, and producer of Paper Flowers, which is a love story with a call to action, inspired by my family's own Japanese internment and the parallels of today. It's about set in 1970s, civil rights, Vietnam, loving it, good time. This is not a laugh riot show, by the way, but it has a hope and resilience and stuff like that. But it's about a woman who is haunted by her memories of Japanese internment, of her Japanese internment, after a racial slur is burnt onto her lawn, left for her daughter. So a portion of all of our ticket sales goes to organizations that are funding the communities like the Brown Berets, going back to Latino and immigrant communities that have been affected by the raids. I'm also fundraising, so I'm reaching out to bigger organizations to get money. But I don't have much to offer them besides like thanks for donating to my show and maybe like a logo in my stuff. I don't know what else to offer them besides like thanks for making political art.
You can put them in your playbill if you have all that support from those organizations, and you could include them in some of your social media posts, which helps them amplify their own, base.
And you can also offer, like, if you give me a certain amount, I'll put your logo onto my postcard, and then that just helps you too because it shows that you have like a person's stamp of approval on your work. Then we have a question up here.
Hello, I'm Tyler Stein, and I'm here with Logan. We're behind Dead John, a 80s horror rock musical. And my question is about doing multiple kind of crowdfunding at the same time, like doing a Kickstarter and a GoFundMe, or like if you just recommend just concentrating on one, or what your thoughts are on that.
Boy, that's a lot of time. I mean, if you've got the time and the bandwidth to do it, do it. But I wouldn't do them. I would do them in series, not concurrently. But the other thing about crowdfunding is depending on the model. I mean, I think GoFundMe lets you have all or nothing, or you can get whatever you. I mean, they just take a different percentage. Maybe that's Indiegogo, but I mean, there's so many of them now. But what do you see as the advantage of doing two? Because I want to know what would drive you to do two of them. Is it because they both have the different models and?
Yeah, that, and then potentially maybe it opens up a new market if you're doing one over the other.
So yeah, I mean, in that say, as long as you're not doing them concurrently, I can see that there's an objective for that. And there's an objective if you don't get your all or nothing. Like Kickstarter's all or nothing. And one of the things I tell people is that you're going to put your play on anyway, right? And so set aside the money. And if you get to the end of your campaign and you're $1,000 short of a $5,000 goal, have your kid or your friend put $1,000. You're going to spend the money anyway, so complete your own campaign that way. I mean, it's a kind of against the rules to do that, but nobody's going to tell on you. And then if it's like Indiegogo, where you get whatever you get, that can help you. I don't know that you're going to get that much of a different reach, though, because the people that are crowdfunding are going to almost all the sites. And there's a whole population of people on Kickstarter that are always looking for things to fund. I mean, 30% of the people that participated, backed my campaign on Kickstarter, didn't know me, aren't from LA, they have this history of being crowdfunding people. They have all these projects they funded, so.
I would also say that GoFundMe and versus something like Kickstarter or Indiegogo, it's just going to have like way less art supporters. It's so much more used for medical expenses or emergencies or these other things. And so you're really not, like when I've used GoFundMe, I haven't really seen people from that platform go in the same way that like other platforms are. And that just seems like a lot of work because most of the work you're trying to do is drive your own audience. And so I wouldn't run them concurrently for sure. But if you do two, definitely not concurrently.
Yeah, to reiterate on that, just running one crowdfunding campaign is so much work. And if you have people that are helping you out, if you have a huge team around you that's willing to take that on, you can try it, but know that like if one is already so much work, you multiply that by 2-3 more times. It's all of that plus producing the show, plus marketing the show, plus going to office hours. So it's just like, it is a very quick and easy way to burn out before you even get the Fringe. So just take care of yourself with that would be the main thing I would say.
Lastly, if I could just have you all give like one little seed of advice that you wish you had gotten before you started this process originally or within that process that you just want to shout out, whoever thinks of it first. Like one little nugget that you wish you'd known.
Go to every workshop, every office hours, read everything that they put out, watch as many of their tutorial videos as you can. Take advantage of all the people that have put their experience and their effort and their time into this, because that's what saved my can, was the fact that I went to all the workshops and I studied everything and I went back and watched their videos. So make use of the resource that is the Fringe, and also the community that's the Fringe. And that was not really advice that I didn't take, but that was something that I really learned just by doing it.
Absolutely. I would say, to reiterate that, go to every office hours you can that's within reason, and don't just go to talk about your show, don't just go to market your show, go to forge relationships with the other artists that are around you, and that will continue outside of Fringe. And if you come back to Fringe, you'll see a lot of the same people. You'll probably see me. I'm not going anywhere. And then we can continue to go, oh, you did that. What are you doing now? And you can just keep building that and building that and building that. And the base gets bigger and better every single year that you do that.
And then if you're going to finance this yourself, budget more than you think that your budget is. Like whatever your budget is right now, add like 20% more, because you don't know that you're gonna need extra rehearsals here, or that you're gonna buy t-shirts for your cast, or you're gonna give everybody a candle as a wrap gift, like whatever it is, like just assume that you're gonna spend way more than you think that you're gonna spend.
People remember how you make them feel about themselves. So when you go to office hours and you go to networking events, be sure to be the person that asks them about their show. Then wait for them to ask you about your show. Just wait. Don't be the first one to talk. Let them talk first, because they're going to remember you more by the way you help them feel about themselves.
Oh, I love this. All right, we love you all. We're going. Bye.